Talking all things entertainment, this is Sherri Pullum in the studio with Dreamers Unite. This is our Ready, Set, Action episode with TV executive Ashley McFarlin. Hey Dreamers! Well, we are here for our very first episode. I am pleased and proud to say Dreamers Unite in the studio. That's right, we're in the studio, bringing you everything entertainment. So when I was thinking about who would I have as my very first guest to launch this, I couldn't think of anyone, and I mean anyone better than Ashley McFarlin. Yeah. Not only is she she's like going like this, I could see her. Not only is she a very talented lady, but she is also a very dear friend because we also have a project that we're working on together. We're going to talk about it. Ashley is the Vice President of Development for WETV and ALLBLK TV. She has her own production company, Bird's Eye Entertainment. She is a mom of two beautiful, bright lights. And she's making her little heart sign. And she is so much more. And I'm going to not do all the talking about her because she just needs to talk about herself and all of her great and wonderful accomplishments. Ashley, my friend, it is such an honor and a privilege, really, girl. I was like, just come on the show.
I know, that sounds so formal. It sounds so official. But hi, nice to be here.
You are official.
Thank you, Sherri.
No, really. Listen, let me tell you something. We are friends, but I got to give you your props because this lady right here, it's not easy to work up the ladder and be in the position where you are. So this show really is about everything entertainment. We want people to understand, behind the scenes, in front of the camera, and not just camera, but every aspect of entertainment. And one of the things that I thought for you that we can talk about today is, you're a business owner, you're a producer, you're, reading scripts and deciding what shows are going to be put on, a network, television. You're also a writer yourself. So what inspired you to get into this game, into television?
Oh, this is why you didn't tell me the first question.
That's right.
Oh, what inspired me? Okay, so you guys may relate, you may not. I'm an 80s baby. I'm 42, don't mind sharing my age. I love life. I'm thankful I've had the long life that I've had thus far, looking forward to many more. But I'm an 80s baby, and I was raised on television. Anyone who was raised in the 80s, you remember, a lot of us were latchkey kids. We would come home, we would watch TV. And for me, it was an opportunity to just kind of explore these worlds that I don't think I would have been able to just kind of walk in the physical sense, but I could totally transcend to those places through that little box, which back in the day was like a square thing that television would emit from. And I was just so fascinated by the people and the stories and the worlds that I was exposed to when I watched television that I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to know how to be a part of the magic. And when I was a child, I think I was about 8 or 9, when I finally understood what my mother did for a living. She was a television producer. And once I sort of my little brain pieced together that she was one of those people behind the magic that was coming out of this little black box, I studied her. I don't think she knew I was paying attention so closely, but she would take me on set with her often. I would listen in on her phone calls, and I would want to eventually do what she does or did. And it inspired me to figure out what this television and film game was all about and find out where my place in it would be.
Wow. I didn't know your mom was a producer.
Mm-hmm. My mom is a producer. Girl, she will.
Is.
Dr. Murdell McFarlin will smack me in my hand if I said was. My mother is a producer.
Okay. I'm sorry, Dr. McFarlin, I mean, is a producer and a talented one at that. I know she has to be.
She produces, yeah, she's very talented. My mom's a genius. She's very intuitive, really smart. She has a just this creative force in her mind that creates these visions for different projects, television and live events. And I mean, my mom, she produces our home. Like everything is a production that she's always executive producing. So yeah, she's a big inspiration for me, and quite frankly, why I'm even on this path.
Wow, that's powerful, Ashley. Shout out to you, Mom. Yeah. So, speaking of producing, let's talk a little bit about that because a lot of people don't really even understand, you know, what it means to be a producer. So, tell me a little bit about, producing, and then let's talk a little bit about the differences between like executive producer, associate producer. Very important to have a line producer, right?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and I think before I answer it directly, I'll give a little background. So yes, my formal title at WETV and ALLBLK is Vice President of Development, but I also, in that position, oversee a lot of current television, which means I executive produce a lot of the television shows that are already in production. We aren't just developing new ideas, but I also get to produce and kind of have my hand and voice into projects that are already on the air between WeTV and ALLBLK, which are both channels owned and operated by AMC Networks. So in that role as an executive producer, I am able to oversee the execution of a vision. So the term producer, in its like most bare bones form, literally means to just put pieces together to create something that was not there prior. So as a television or a film producer, you are responsible for putting lots of assets and elements together to create something that didn't exist prior. And oftentimes when you're called upon to be a producer, you are putting together a vision that someone else may have had or that you had, and making it tangible and making it real. So a lot of television shows in development that I oversee as vice president are really just ideas. They're just thoughts that people may have. And we kind of like, we stir our brains around and we collaborate to determine, okay, if we were to produce this, what would it be? What would it look like? And if it sounds like something that's viable, something that's entertaining, something that we think our viewers would like, then we move to the next stage of actually producing it. And we hire all types of producers. You would have generally the executive producer on the network or studio level. Those are the people who are ultimately responsible for signing off on the creative vision for how you want to execute this thing, signing off also on the budget and the staffing, and they tend to make the final decisions with regard to what that final product will be. So a lot of people will have input and say as we create it and produce it, but at the final stage before it goes to air, your executive producers, and they're usually multiple ones, oftentimes on my shows we have at least 2 or 3 from the network or studio level, they do the final sign off and be like, okay, this is great for air, let's put it to the masses. Below that network or studio executive producer level, or almost side by side, you have other executive producers that usually come from the producing partners. Production companies tend to be the staffing and the machine that produces the show, and they're hired by the network to execute the vision for a project. So for example, I have a company called Bird's Eye Entertainment. If it weren't my company, that company would be hired by me at WeTV to then staff, budget, and execute the project. Now, within that entity of this production company, you have tons of other producers. You have usually an executive producer on that side, which is managing sort of like the day-to-day logistics of staffing, budget, and creative development. And that's also usually more than one executive producer on that side. You also have a showrunner executive producer. That person is usually the boots on the ground executive producer. So they are there on set every day, literally seeing what it is that we've all been talking about on these calls and in these meetings, and ensuring that what we've discussed is happening the way we would want it to happen. They make the on-the-spot decisions. They make the tough calls when things aren't going exactly right. They troubleshoot. They pivot. They're hired because of their instinct and their skills at being quick thinkers and problem solvers, and very creative and insightful in being able to see what we see on the network and the production company side and actually make it real. They tend to be the boss on the ground, the executive producer, showrunner. And then alongside them is someone that we usually reference as the line producer. Line meaning every budget line. That person is producing the lines of the budget, meaning they are, after the budget has been approved, as we film the show, they are constantly tracking the cost and making sure that each line item of the budget is being adhered to, that we aren't overspending. If we're underspending somewhere and we have savings, that we're reallocating that to a space that may need it or could use it, or that we're absorbing it as a savings for the project. You also then have often a supervising producer or a co-executive producer. Those two roles sometimes are interchangeable depending on the experience or skill set of the person in that role. They tend to be the right hand of the showrunner. Mm-hmm. Showrunners can determine how they want to delegate duties between those two roles, however they see fit. Sometimes you have showrunners who just want to focus on the creative. I just want to be artsy. I just want to talk story. I just want to create narrative. And then you have a co-executive producer or a supervising producer that's dealing with the logistics of locations, securing, and making sure staff is completely locked in and talent is happy. Like, between those two roles, you can determine how you want to delegate those top level responsibilities of the management of the show. And then beneath there's just a handful of field producers, associate producers, production assistants, production managers, production coordinators. Field producers are generally responsible for the field. They're out on set working directly with your crew, your director of photography, your director, your camera ops, your audio engineers, making sure that we are capturing and covering the footage properly. Oftentimes they work closely with talent to prep them and direct them in the field and on set in their scene work, to be sure that we're getting the scenes that we've all agreed would help develop and create the show that we envision. Right. Associate producers, that's a pretty fluid role and term. It's very relative. An associate producer's responsibilities are very distinct and different show to show. But they tend to be the heartbeat of the creative part of the operation. The associate producer is oftentimes the liaison between the upper level management and producers and the lower level. They disseminate the information. They make sure everything is just kind of functioning properly, and they are oftentimes the support system for your field producers and your supervising producers. And then after that, it's really just entry level roles as production assistants or or talent wranglers, or just people who are just kind of like, they have a very specified role on the show that they execute, and then usually if they do it very well and they develop great relationships with other people on the team, they can move up the ranks of the producing structure.
Wow. Okay, this is exactly why you are like the perfect first guest. Okay? I mean, who else could break that down into tangible, really, because it is confusing. That's a lot of different roles. Yeah, and to make a show happen, you can see just how much work it takes, just how many people when you're talking about film and television, but I think it also gives people an idea too how much room there is to enter this game. There's a lot of opportunity here, and I think people don't realize. So this is why we're here. This is why we're here, dreamers. Yeah.
When I was a kid, she always used to say, TV is a team sport. This is a collaborative exercise. No one goes into television as a one-man band. You can't pull it off by yourself. Even if you do once or twice, you'll burn out. It's not sustainable. It really is something where you want to build a strong team with people who have expertise in certain lanes, and you allow everyone to be excellent in their lanes instead of everyone trying to do everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that. clearly. And as one who has a production company and doing some projects, I have totally learned, when you begin, obviously, and I want to talk about that too, as a beginner in the film or television game, you are the dishwasher, the bell ringer, you're doing so many, you're the location scout, you're managing, you're executive producing, sometimes the talent like me, but you realize that you really can't do it all effectively and efficiently. So what is the first sort of producer that you want to bring on board if you have an independent project? Who or producers?
You need an executive producer. Like, you need to figure out who's at the head of this thing, because like any good machine, you need someone in the driver's seat. So you want an executive producing team or person who's responsible for the baseline, the foundational components of any good project: the money, the staff, and the creative vision. Those are the three important things to putting your project together. And you could have 3 executive producers for each area. One executive producer is solely responsible for making sure this thing has the funding that it needs to get off the ground. You can have another producer who's totally focused on writing and developing the creative of the project, and someone else who's working with a line producer to make sure you guys have the staff and the crew to pull this off.
Right. Okay. So people, you need to write down these 3 important things when you have an independent project. I'm catching this little nugget from you right now, right?
Okay.
So money, staff, creative vision. All right. I'm going to catch it from the screen. I might got to catch it from that screen. Boom. There's your nugget. Okay. So, no, that's really great and so helpful. And so many people don't even understand what the line producer does in managing every line of your budget, really, which is managing every line of your project. How soon should you bring in a line producer? Is it at the beginning of the project?
Immediately. You bring in your money person immediately. Nothing happens without money. you need, right. Or you can be your own line producer, but you need someone focused on that budget. It is your blueprint to how you're going to pull this thing off. So if you have your creative vision for what you want this to be, then you create a budget that supports the vision. And what I often tell people is, don't go into creating the budget with limitations. Create the realistic budget that you need to make the show you want to make. Then go back into the budget and look at areas that you might be able to scale back on. There's no reason for you to go, especially if it's an independent project that you're passionate about, there's no reason for you to go into it undermining its promise of how great it can be, simply because you don't see the money right then. If you create the budget that it would take to produce this, you can then come up with a strategy, if you work with another executive producer about staffing and resources, to find who you need to connect with to deliver on the budgetary needs of the project.
Yeah,
and
that's
you
so
would
true.
be surprised at the amount of people who are willing to invest and support your projects.
That's right. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a few, because I have support from Ashley for one of my projects. Yay me. Yes. But before I talk about that, I want to talk a little bit about your role at WETV and how did you get there? Like, tell us a little bit about, I know your mom was a big inspiration and that's how you were inspired, but how did you start off in this film and entertainment industry? How did you start off to get to where you are now?
It's a very long story that I will try to make as short and palatable as possible.
Yes.
But I got into television, like I said, I was exposed to it as a kid, just as a viewer. I was entertained by it. I was fascinated by what was happening. As I got older, I did have a desire to write and I love to read. So I didn't know that I would necessarily go into television as a career, but I certainly wanted to be in, I guess, journalism, where I would have an opportunity to tell real stories and explore real spaces and, create worlds for people to see and be exposed to. So in high school, I went to Pace Academy. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I attended a prep school here called Pace Academy, and my journalism teacher at the time she introduced me to a program at UGA, and I went to UGA, and I went to this program for high school students, and I got like the nuts and bolts of basic storytelling. How to tell a story arc, how to develop characters and all of that stuff, which I highly encourage anyone who's into producing television and film to really understand that foundational craft of telling a good story with a beginning, a middle, and end, and developing characters that are engaging and layered and entertaining. That for me, it really sparked something in me for television, because at that point, thinking I was just going to go into print journalism or news, once I got exposed to the craft of storytelling, I was like, no, I want to do this at a greater scale. So when I went to Howard University after high school, I started interning everywhere just to get exposed to what all the opportunities were that I just explained in this hierarchy of producing, so I could figure out what I wanted to do. I worked at the local television station on campus, WHUT. I interned at BET. I interned at CBS. I worked under great managers and directors, and I just like absorbed everything I possibly could about television and film production. And then, I was realizing that it would take money, of course, to do whatever you wanted to do. So I would take a few production assistant gigs here and there because I had a little experience from high school when I was younger in Atlanta working on my mom's projects. But I kind of stumbled upon a great opportunity in theater. I cramped an auditorium at Howard where I could make a bit more change and I could learn more about live production, which I hadn't really been exposed to. Working in theater was a game changer for me. I worked in the lighting department. I worked in the sound department. I absorbed everything I possibly could about theater and live production. And then I kind of worked my way up to the stage management position, which ironically is producing. And producing for live events is exhilarating. It's terrifying, but it's also very satisfying because it forces you to put in place everything that you've been learning and just put everything to the test. And it's a pressure cooker situation where you have to rise to the occasion. And in doing that, I think I really honed in on some important skills that I lean into now as an executive to be able to make quick decisions, to trust my instinct, to apply my storytelling skills, to integrate my communication skills, to encourage and empower the team around me to create whatever it is we've all been, assigned to do. So I did live production with that team, and I also went on tour because the more live productions that would come into the theater, I would be introduced to more and more performers. I met amazing, famous people during that time, and I ended up being asked to join the Hampton Jazz Festival tour, where I worked with the likes of Patti LaBelle and Tina Marie and Stephanie Mills and all their teams as stage manager. And I was in college, so traveling with the road crew and like going to different arenas, I learned like all these different approaches to telling stories through music, telling stories through light, telling stories through visual components on the screen. And once I got to my final year of Howard University, I was just like full of all of this information that life poured into me by just going out and taking every opportunity that I could find to learn. And my senior year, there was a program under Suzanne DePass at Howard University where she was selecting 2 seniors from the communications program to work under her. And I applied immediately because I was like, oh my God, Suzanne DePass.
Yes.
And thanks to all the experience I got, and I think, and whatever essay I wrote for the program, I was accepted. And I worked with her my spring semester, senior year. I left DC and went to New York for like 6 weeks to work at Showtime at the Apollo because her team had just taken over the Showtime at the Apollo production when Monique started hosting. And that introduced me to the convergence of live production and televised production. And it was like the world was like the universe, God. I know everyone believes in different things, but my God was like, Ashley, I have prepared you for a time such as
for
this.
Sure.
And it was like everything I learned through working in theater and on the road with the Jazz Festival and everything I was learning in school, studying television and film production was all coming together. And working under someone as prolific as Suzanne DePass taught me the management and the business of the industry. And that's when I got a glimpse of where I thought I was headed, which was to be an executive, to be a boss, to be a leader in this industry. And that is really what put fire under me. When I finished that program and went back to Howard, I graduated summa cum laude. And I applied to a program in New York called the Summer Associates Program with Viacom, specifically with MTV. Mm-hmm. And that was a paid internship. And because of all the experience I had, I was accepted into the program, and I was assigned to the team that does all the live events for MTV, the VMAs, the Beach House, the spring breaks, the New Year's Eve ball, all that stuff. And I worked with them through the summer, networked with some incredibly impressive producers and directors and executives at the team, and I just kind of made my way through the system such that by the time the internship was over, I was offered a job to stay. I came on board as an executive assistant for the production team at MTV in its heyday, when TRL was at its height. Laguna Beach had been developed while I was there. Like, there were a lot of exciting things happening while I was there. And again, I was just taking it all in. I was in an entry-level position, and I just absorbed as much information as I possibly could, and I built relationships with influential people that I knew in the future would be helpful in my career path, and they were. I worked through that position and eventually got the courage to kind of step out into the freelance world outside of corporate. And I started working as an associate producer on various projects that were run by a lot of the producers I was supporting as an administrative and executive assistant. And once you kind of get into that mix and you start producing at the associate producer level, you kind of move up to the producer level as a field producer, then you get up to the supervising producer level, and so on and so forth. Until I reached the showrunner role at like 25, 26, I was showrunning, which is, I mean, in my most humble voice, that was very impressive. I even kind of stepped back myself, and I was like, Ashley, this is crazy.
Yeah, that's very impressive. That's super impressive.
In my mid-20s, I was showrunning projects for HGTV, the Travel Channel, a lot of fun stuff. And I was fortunate enough to also then fall into the space of reality television, what we now consider reality TV, docuseries, ensemble cast shows, and that was really what became the catapult for my career, because those shows have bigger budgets, more exposure, a lot more marketing. So the more of those shows I did made me a more viable candidate for bigger shows. So I would eventually go on to help develop and produce Housewives of Potomac. I was on the team that created the show, and then I worked alongside an amazing producer, and we show ran it together, and it became one of the newer franchises of the Housewives iteration. And then I would go on to do some more shows for Bravo, Southern Charm, New Orleans, and I don't know, just a bunch of stuff. I was just suddenly in this cycle of really cool docu soaps. And as a Black woman, it was important, I think, because so many of these shows were centered around Black stories. And there were very few Black women telling these stories. So I didn't take it lightly that I was in position to show run these projects and help craft the stories that would project my image of, a Black woman to the global stage. And yeah, I stuck with it for several years. I think I was show running for like 15, 17 years. I got really tired. The last project I did was Girls Cruise for VH1. And that was, I don't know if people remember, that was with Little Kim, Chili, and Maya, B. Simone, and Pretty V. Really, really fun project. But it was, for me, it was sort of like a signal that it was time for me to transition, because it was a very large show to produce. And at the helm of it, as one of the showrunners, it just really drained me. My life had changed. I was married with kids, and I was like an adult. So, chasing after talent and staying in edit all night was no longer like as sustainable as it used to be. Yeah. And I was really ready to kind of step away from the whole thing. I was going to go teach because I had some experience as an adjunct professor prior to that. In between gigs, I would work at local universities and try to teach younger producers, sort of like the tricks of the trade and what I've been learning. So I was positioning myself to transition into education. And I got a call from a very good friend of mine who told me that WeTV was looking for an executive on the development team. Mm-hmm. And I went in for the interview. Quite frankly, I didn't really aspire to do it because I had resolved that I was not going to do this stuff anymore because I was tired. But when I went to WeTV, I really fell in love with the culture there, the people, the other executives. I'm actually a fan of WeTV. I don't watch a lot of reality TV because I produce it, so it's hard to watch. But WeTV is one of the few channels I actually did tune into a lot. I love Braxton Family Values and Mary Mary. Mm-hmm. At the team there, it just felt like a good fit. And it felt like the timing was right to be in a stable corporate environment, not the run and gun freelance life that I had been engaged in for several years prior. And in 2019, I crossed over, as most executives say. I left the freelance space. I moved over into the corporate space as an executive. And I have, really appreciated the opportunity to be in the rooms, developing a lot of the types of shows that I used to just kind of get handed to me to execute in the field. I think the perspective as a former showrunner helps me craft projects that are actually producible and don't just feel and sound right on paper.
Wow. Ashley.
I tried to make it as short as I could. But that was a big
what I was going to say is I learned so much that, okay, I was just thinking as you were going, telling about your journey and your path, how much I didn't know because we met in 2019, right?
Yes.
Or was it 2018? I think it was 2019. Well, what I do know is you had
I was at
just...
when I met you.
No, you were not there yet.
No, I was at Girls Cruise.
You were at Girls Cruise. That's what I was going to say. And you had just had Rain. She has this two beautiful children. I mean, gorgeous and so sweet, so smart. And I remember you saying, as you were saying, you know what, I think I'm going to kind of take a break. It's a lot. And then at that time, you were not even at Girls Cruise yet. And then you took on Girls Cruise. And I'm so grateful. All the time I tease people and say, I got Ashley before she was at WeTV because she would have probably been too busy for my little project, which we'll talk about. But before we talk about my project and us getting together and how we actually met, I want to talk about how do you decide, or your team, what sort of is the spark for you to say, you know what, this is a show, a program that we want to produce, or we want to, have on our network.
Question.
It is. Well, yeah, and I know there's a lot of elements to it, but maybe in a 1, 2, 3, a 1, 2, 3, yeah.
I'll try to keep it simple.
Say your top things, maybe your 3 top sort of considerations. Criteria.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Our again, TV is a team sport, so there's a development team at WeTV and ALLBLK, and we do really collaborate. I know at some other networks, it's more of a competitive space where certain executives are trying to make sure their project gets on, but we legitimately discuss and talk and share ideas and collaborate on determining what projects are best for our platforms. So for us specifically, and I have to stress to any content creator out there, it is very unique to the network or studio you are pitching to. You should really know the brand and know their audience to determine if your project is a good fit for them. But for us, for WeTV and for ALLBLK, we're generally looking for highly entertaining docu-series, unscripted projects that are centered around ensemble cast with women, usually at the forefront, telling really dynamic and layered, complicated stories of relationships. They could be loving relationships of lovers and boyfriends, girlfriends, husband and wives, wives and wives, husbands, husbands. Familial relationships, mother-daughters, father-daughter, father-son, grandmother-daughter, all that sort of stuff. And that space we have found gives us very authentic storytelling opportunities, which is what we really lean into. We are not the network that likes highly produced stories. We want it to be and feel real. In the unscripted space for us, the project that really does the best for us right now is Love After Lockup and Life After Lockup, and we have a few more iterations of that show coming out as well. Those are series where the scenario and the circumstances around the characters' lives are so insanely shocking and unpredictable that you almost can't believe it's real, such that it's that much more satisfying when you see how real it is. We really don't push our characters to deliver lines and offer up stories and that sort of stuff. We track what's really going on, and the hardest part about that in development is finding these worlds and these spaces where that level of drama and shock and awe actually exists without a heavy producer hand. So we're very selective about what we greenlight. Anyone who's pitched to us knows it's a process. We don't just
yes, I know. I can attest because I know someone that pitches that's on my team to you a lot.
Yeah, we have a very small eye and a needle to thread because we're a smaller network. We're not a big OWN or VH1 or Lifetime where we have thousands, hundreds of hours to fill throughout the week. We only have 2 nights of original programming for a few shows. Right. So we try to invest and develop the strongest shows that we can find because in our mind we figure if we commit and we invest in a really great project, it won't just be a one and done. We'll be able to see this on the air for 6 to 8 seasons, like most of our successful shows have been. Mary Mary, Growing Up Hip Hop, Love After Lockup, Mama June, those shows have been on for years. Yes. And that's what we like to invest in, projects that we can really play the long game with. And I will also add to that WETV is now exploring the scripted space. We've been known as a dynamic, a prolific channel for great unscripted content, but now since our alignment with All Black, which has a lot of scripted content on it, we are now looking to bring on more scripted shows, scripted dramatic series to our slate. So in the same way that we're looking for dynamic characters, layered and unexpected circumstances and shocking scenarios and relationships in our unscripted, we're also looking for the same in our scripted space. We like to say that what you find on All Black and on WeTV, specifically for the African American audience, these aren't shows or derivatives of shows that you might find on similar networks like a BET Plus or an OWN or TV One. We would like to offer up something that kind of pushes the envelope a little bit further than our competitors and offers an edge that you may not see on other networks.
That's amazing. Well, and the thing I love about you too, Ashley, is that you're approachable. You know what I mean? And just even in this interview, to spend time with me now and to give our dreamers, our viewers, our people who are interested in the entertainment industry, or just maybe just have a curiosity, just to even spend this time and breaking it down and offering all this information, it's so valuable for people. And just like your mother inspired you, you're inspiring other people. So I love the fact that you're honest too, you're approachable, and you're humble. So humble.
I try.
Yeah, you really are. You really are. But I want to talk a little bit about our project together.
Okay.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, you see my cherry red cup?
I do.
Yes.
I do. Always. Cherry red is always in the mix when I talk to you, Sherri.
She's always here. So that's how we met, really, right? And I don't think I ever asked you this. Maybe it was just kind of an understood. We probably talked about it. So I have a project that I have been working on. It's a television series, and it's called Cherry Red Sweet Escape. And so I really, put my teeth in it too and poured my heart and passion. And I'm also an actress and writer and producer. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. So I filmed a pilot. And as we talked about, kind of starting off and I sort of decided to show that I could do it, write, produce, direct, act in it. I didn't necessarily want to direct it, but at the time, my director of photography said, "You can do it." So I did. And from that, I really started meeting other people, and I had my agent introduced me to you, and I came in and met Ashley. So I want to ask you, what made you want to take on my project? And she's still the executive producer of my project. That's why I always say I am so happy I got her before WeTV. Because she wouldn't have had time for me probably. Even though she did. No. Listen, she did. Remember when you called me and you go, "I don't know if I can, I love the project, but I don't know if I can." And I was like, "Please stay with it if you love it. Do you believe in it?" She's like, "Yes, I believe in it." So tell me why, and tell me what you think is really special. Because we got some big things coming up with it too. So tell me.
No, we do.
Why.
I think to sort of speak to the wonderful, generous compliments you offered earlier about humility and willingness to kind of be available and approachable. Before I'm a producer, before I'm a writer, before I'm a teacher, before I'm a mom, before any of those things, I really do believe I was called in just as an intercessor for excellence. Like I've been so blessed in my life to be able to engage and be exposed to such incredible excellence in people and circumstances and journeys and experiences that I don't assume it's just for me. So I early on as a child, I would just find opportunities where I could share and pour into others what was being so generously poured into me. Mm-hmm. And sort of in that intercessor mindset, my thinking is, let me be a vessel to share and send and transport whatever resources and needs that someone might benefit from, where and when I can. And often, I'm a deeply faithful person. God and the Spirit of God, it leads my life.
Yes.
So it's very, I won't say easy, but it has become habitual for me to sort of walk in life identifying when my instinct, when the voice inside of me, when my spirit is saying, help this person, support this person, be there for this person. Even if I don't always know what the answer is or how I can help, I do my best to be obedient to that nudging. And when I met you, that's what I felt. It was clear to be like, help her. What she's doing has something special in it that you can likely support and foster. So that's really what attracted me to it. I can't say that it was anything from you or from me. It was just sort of like a being of who you are and who I am, where I felt compelled to support and help and offer myself in any way I could to facilitate whatever the future of the project is.
Yeah, I will say the same thing. When we met, it was like synergy. It was definitely just a divine design. We kind of really knew, like, this is definitely a divine intervention.
Encounter. Yeah.
An encounter. And I think it's been that way ever since, even to the fact that we actually are going to do some co-writing. So I had a pilot, we were pitching, of course, things happened, the pandemic came along, we got a lot of really great feedback, I am happy and proud to say, from some top television executives, and then of course things shut down, breaks hold, but what I have learned is that you can't give up on your dream. And what I do know is, we have so many ways that we're cut from the same cloth. And pursuing excellence and pursuing our vision. And also, I feel like this project is also meant, and I know you understand it, is to serve greater. Yeah. So, right. So, in saying all that, we know that it's going to happen. And not because we say so, but I do believe that God says so. I believe that there's a vision and something poured inside of me, just as you believe that. And, as we say, birds of a feather, right? it's true.
Yep.
Like-minded people do come together. So I am so honored and grateful that we're going to be, yeah, and that's a, I was like, again, for this first episode, I thought of just our journey together, and that meeting this incredible woman, just, pitching an idea and talking about something to someone that's your baby and your project, but then the icing on the cake is when you actually can have a real relationship and really be able to work with someone that you admire, respect, and then grow to love. And so I know that's what's happened with us. And I don't know, it gets me a little emotional, but I'm so appreciative.
The feeling is
I
definitely
wanted to
mutual,
say
Sherri.
that. Yeah.
I don't think that you give yourself enough credit. The feeling is definitely mutual. You are a force. Your boldness is so inspirational and infectious, and just even doing your project independently is a very brave and courageous step as a creative. So that was so impressive when I met you, that you had already done the work of creating your vision. You weren't just sitting on this idea and hoping and wondering when it was going to happen. Like you stepped out there and you did it. So I can say from my perspective, I was inspired by you and definitely impressed at the steps you take to achieve what falls into your heart to receive.
I just got to take that in for a minute, people. Thank you so much. I said take that in. Thank you for that, Ashley. Really. Yeah, and we did not plan to say all this. I just want to let you all know. This is,
Gotta give, what do the kids say? You gotta give your flowers. You gotta give them their flowers while they're here.
I'm a big fan, and I'm grateful that you're a fan of mine. And even with this show, really and truly, it is my goal to help people to inspire higher. And so speaking of helping people, we are going to have a caller. We have a couple of callers.
Oh,
you're going to be able, we're going to get some real people. Yeah, we're going to talk to some real people on the show. Yeah, more engagement here in the studio because not everybody has access to you like I do. I know if you could talk to everyone, though, because Ashley is so kind and generous, I know that you would. But I also know that your schedule, your time is busy and all of that. So we're going to go to our caller.
Okay.
All right, so Ashley, we have our caller waiting to ask a question for you. Anshul, are you there?
Yeah. Hi. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
I have a question. So I was in production in another country, like I'm from India, and I was working in reality shows at the back end, providing with whatever was required. Then I moved over here a couple of years ago, and I was planning to I was trying to step into this industry again with my experience, but I saw these certain gaps. So if, with your expertise, if you can advise me that if I have an idea or a show, I want to submit a pitch to a production house, how do I go about all of this?
Oh, sure. And first, thank you for calling in. And I'm happy to help however I can. And congratulations on all the work you've been doing in this space. Being a creative is not easy work. So make sure you give yourself a little credit there for sticking through with it. With regards to pitching, there are generally, most networks and studios are looking for two components. A pretty robust electronic deck, which is, for lack of better wording, a really nice PowerPoint or keynote visual presentation of what your show idea is. It's usually 7 to 10 slides that outline, the premise and log line of your project, the characters and their arcs that you would explore, and then the series story arc that would be at the core of the show. You would also want to include stakes for the show. What would viewers be watching to see if it's achieved or if someone fails at it? And then offer up some insight as to why this is something worth watching now. Why is this relative to the world that we live in now? Why is this important? Are there statistics that sort of support the must-see component of the project. And you add some really pretty visuals that give us an idea of what this might look like on television. If this is a scripted project, you would like to offer up images and information on actors that you might consider to play for some of the roles. If it's unscripted, you just kind of want to stick to some episode format breakdowns, like what we would see act to act as a television show, outside of what the general idea behind the show is. You know, if we start in Act 1, this is what we'll often see. By the time we're in Act 3, this is probably what happens. And then by the time you get to Act 6, you know, this is a big reveal, or this is a bit of point of contention, or something like that. So you'll want a very strong visual deck to share. And then it's helpful to have a sizzle reel, which is a short teaser, 4 to 6 minutes, that gives a very good portrayal of what the show looks and feels like, and the point of view of the show. What is this show about, and who can we expect to see in it, and how can we expect to see them engaging with one another? And you want to make the tone of it feel very teasy, very engaging, and a conversation starter. Create it so it leaves us asking questions and wanting more.
That's exciting.
That was a lot. That was more than that I was actually expecting. Like, okay, so I know I have some more edits to do to my submission. Thank you. I also had a following question. Maybe if you can help me with that. Like, how do I choose the right production house or the producer? Because, you know, just coming to there are so many out there. Like, how would I understand, yes, how do I find my compatibility? Because sometimes the production house or the producers might be very good, but maybe I don't feel that comfortable. So what are the key points that I should look at when I'm selecting a producer or a production house for myself?
So I encourage producers, content creators to date. You need to date production houses. You need to determine who's the suitable partner for you. A lot of content creators approach this like they are begging someone to help them. I would change your mindset. If you value your project, assume that you're the prize here. And you go and you cold call some companies, their development teams, see if you can set up a call to meet with whoever runs their development department and talk to them about the project you have. And then you determine if their branding and how they tell story and the relationships they have would be beneficial and work well with your project and your vision. You can identify who these companies are by connecting and building relationships with people in the industry who might have contacts at these companies, or quite simply watching TV. When you watch some of the shows on television, there's an end production card where you can see who's responsible for what shows, and then you just go online and you research who they are and what they stand for, and determine if it's someone you'd like to reach out to see if you could set up a call or a meeting to talk about partnering with them on a project that you have.
Yeah, thank you. That was wonderful, and I'm excited to really take your advice and go that route. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, no problem at all.
And you know what? We have to say, come back again, call in, or come back again and tell us how you made your dream happen. Because that's what Dreamers Unite is all about, right? We're trying to make sure that we're helping you to manifest your dream. So thank you for that, Anshul, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and before we go on to the next caller, I wanted to just ask something, because what Anshul was saying and how to get a project to, an exec or to a network for consideration, how important is it that you have an agent? Because thank God I do have a literary agent. Do you accept sort of unsolicited scripts or decks?
We do.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we do at WETV and ALLBLK. All networks and studios do not, but we do, just because our philosophy is, a good idea can come from anywhere. But I will say having agent representation helps a lot. Agents, their job is to build and maintain relationships with people like us. So if you have a relationship with them, they usually have easier access to us, and there's also a shorthand and a level of trust that we have there. So such that, if you're just cold calling or we, don't know you or you, where you're from and that sort of thing, we have to spend some time getting to know you and learn more about you before we can jump in bed with you. But when you come in with an agent, the agent sort of serves as the matchmaker. We trust the agent's judgment. We trust that they've vetted whomever they're bringing in, and that they know our brand well enough to bring a project that they feel confident that we would be worth our time to explore.
Yeah, I love this. And I love this concept of dating.
Yeah.
Because it is relationship building, right? And that's really what it is. It's about relationship building. Okay. So we have another caller for you. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and ask his question.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Mikhail. I am a senior film major at the School of Visual Arts in New York City. And I guess my question for you would be, what's your advice for, me as a senior, obviously, so I'll be like entering the world, the industry after college. What's your advice for me?
Well, hi, nice to meet you. And thank you for calling in. It's a great question. I get it often because I do talk to a lot of college students or young professionals just getting into the industry. And the best advice I can offer up is really the relationships. Your junior and senior year, do your best to get engaged with different producing companies, studios, anything industry adjacent. So you can build some relationships with people who already have their foot in the door. Such that by the time you graduate, you aren't just on your own trying to navigate the space. You have mentors, you have friends, like real friends who know you on a human level, who can support your process and your vision to get into the industry and the space that you want to get into. If you don't have the privilege of getting a lot of internships, or you're in a town that doesn't have a lot of production going on, I would certainly be bold with emailing and reaching out to departments of companies, again, that you've seen produce some of the shows that you are a fan of, and ask for an informational. You're a student at X school and you're looking at different avenues to pursue when you graduate, and you would love an opportunity to just kind of speak to them, learn more about what they do and their story in the industry. Some people will ignore you. They won't respond. Others may actually be impressed with your tenacity and with your courage to reach out and just see who answers.
Okay,
does that
thank
help?
you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, does that help?
Yeah, it does. Like, it makes a lot of sense to, build connections this year and stuff.
Yeah, if you are in a town that has a pretty vibrant production community, start, looking on Facebook, look online to find mixers and events that you can attend, so you can actually start meeting the people that work in the industry you would like to go to screenings, attend workshops, master classes, that sort of thing, and get your resume out there. Start applying for entry-level positions at local television stations, or a lot of people do web series that might need entry-level positions. There are a lot of independent projects that are also posting on Staff Me Up, looking for production assistants or people to come on board to support their projects. And that's how you just start to meet more and more people in the industry. And the relationships are really what give you the leverage you need to get into the position you want to be in.
Okay, so what is really wonderful about having this call-in portion, like I was really determined to add this element, is because, like I said, everyone doesn't have access to Ashley McFarlin like I do. And to be able to have a one-on-one, even though it's brief, it's still an introduction. And to be able to get a question or two in, all of that is so valuable. And that's what we want to do at Dreamers Unite. I mean, we will spare no expense to help these dreams manifest and come true. Okay? So before we close this segment out, or this episode out, because I could go on and on all day, and such valuable information, and I think people could listen to ours more. I really do. You are such a bright light. You are so knowledgeable. So, your expertise, your wisdom, all these offerings are so valuable. And people pay money for this.
You make me blush.
Okay,
but
you should
thank
be
you.
blushing. You should be blushing. No, really. Information, there's power in just having this knowledge and getting this information. So thank
I'm happy
you.
to
Yeah,
I am
actually,
very happy.
I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. You know I do. And if I could hug you, I'm hugging you virtually. Yeah, for sure. So before we close, one last question is, this is Dreamers Unite after all, so we have to tap in and check in on you and your dream. So what's one of your dreams that it could be in the near future, it could be far off, but what's something that we can affirm as a community and support you in your dream in manifesting? You can share it here, and we're all going to affirm it, dreamers. This is the power in numbers.
This is powerful.
Yeah.
This is powerful. Okay, so I have to look at my board because you guys can't see it, but I have this board. It's a whole wall.
Your vision board.
Well, it's not even. Like, it's just like, every day I just put stuff on there that comes to me. It's like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. You know what I would love some shared manifesting support with is revitalizing my community. I recently moved back down south to Atlanta. I live in East Point. And, coming back here after 20 years to a town when I left was a very vibrant, thriving space for affluent African-American professionals and educators and movers and shakers in the Atlanta community. I wouldn't say it's gone down, but it doesn't have the same life and light that it had when I was here. And I want more young people to benefit from what I experienced here. And I want to be a part of that change. So I'm hopeful that the time that I'm down here, no matter, I have no idea how long I will be here. I just go where God tells me to go. Yeah. I would like my presence here to be an influential factor in the revitalization of the East Point community. So that's my dream.
I love that. And we're going to affirm that dream with you. And that's a dream that certainly it's over time. And
yeah.
But you know what? You're always welcome back to talk about it and to share, and maybe we'll even think of some ways that dreamers can come to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do, well, you don't know this, but really at some point it's going to be East Coast dreaming and West Coast dreaming and South and North. We are going to do a big event. Yeah. And Ashley and I are both, we're both from theater backgrounds and also I've produced a lot of events too. So that has been another vision of mine for a long time. So, maybe we'll get dreamers down to Atlanta and do some.
Do it.
Yeah.
I'm putting it on my wall.
Put it on your wall. Put it on your wall. Ashley, really, I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. I am proud and honored at our sisterhood, our longtime friendship, our creative space that we share. And I can't wait. We're starting our writing in January. Yes. So everybody keep us in prayer, really. Follow us, here, Dreamers Unite in the studio. But, listen, subscribe to the channel, Dreamers Unite with Sherri Pullum. Instagram, follow Dreamers Unite Show. Show us the love, show us the support. To keep a dream alive, you obviously do need support from a community. It starts, the seed starts from within, but it's being able to connect to people and community and to the world that helps our dream. It's like that little ripple effect. Putting your little finger in that water by stepping into your dream, imagine the impact that you're making on everyone in the world. And that is why I do this show. In case anybody ever wonders, what is she doing Dreamers Unite for? Yes. A little praise moment. Yeah. So, Ashley, thank you.
To that
Yes.
Sherri, can I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
I'm not a huge social media person, but when I do pop on, I do like to offer up whatever sort of like encouragement and tidbit of information that I can, and some cute pictures here and there. So if anyone would like to kind of tap into that space, I'm usually on Instagram, Miss Ashley Mac 1. Would love to engage with you there. Feel free to hit me up in the DM if you have some questions. I'll do my best to answer. I can't guarantee because, as Sherri mentioned, my life is a little stretched. But I do try to make myself as available as I can to those that need help. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Didn't I tell you she's wonderful? I mean, I didn't know whether I didn't want to put your IG out there and tell people be contacting you for more info and all that. But look at that.
I can't guarantee that I'll get back to you, but I will do my best.
Well, you know what? For you to offer it and for your willingness, it just speaks to the type of person, the wonderful person that you are, Ashley McFarlin. Yeah. We got big things on the horizon, more big things, I'm going to say. Yeah. I wish you all the success in the world, my sister. And
right back at you.
Yeah. And you know I love you and I appreciate you. Yeah, and I appreciate you.
Everybody who's in that studio making all this stuff happen, I know the struggle is real. So thank you guys for pulling this together and supporting my sister and her vision. And Dreamers Unite is a fantastic movement. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
I couldn't have said that better myself. And for that, I thank everybody. I thank everyone for their support, all the team members, everybody who helps to make this show possible. I am thrilled that this first episode, really, I told Ashley, she made my dream come true because this first show was everything and more that I envisioned. So I thank everybody for helping to make this moment happen. And of course, there's more to come. This is just the first episode. So, keep on watching. It's a weekly show, and we have more guests, and it's all about everything entertainment. It's Dreamers Unite in the studio. This is our special series. Then we also have Dreamers Unite, the talk show for dreamers, which will be coming back soon. But until then, check us out, Dreamers Unite in the studio. So thank you all so much. Continue to dream unapologetically. Be bold and make those dreams come true. We're here for you in this community. And I'll see you again next time.